And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get the program started. Let me introduce Jim Chandra after this video.
Hello and good evening. Thank you very much. Thank you, David. Thank you, Renee, for hosting us here today. And it is an incredible privilege to talk about GMC, the brand, and also introduce the brand new 2017 Acadia. But before I get started, I want to give a little shout out to our incredible product development teams. I think there's a couple of tables over here. Thank you for all of the incredible work that you have been doing with us for the last 3-4 years. I wanted to give a shout out to Rick Spina, our Executive Chief Engineer for the GMC brand. He had to take off for a family get-together, I guess. And also a special shout out to Mr. Tim Herrick. Tim used to be our executive chief engineer on the C1 architecture, which Paul's going to talk about at length. But he and I started this program way back probably in 2012. And to see the all-terrain, the red vehicle that's over there, there's a little story behind this. So we actually sketched the business case of that vehicle on a bar napkin in Dallas, when we actually had a customer clinic event. And he and I talked to, what was that, Fireman John, right? And we actually talked about how we could turn a 3-row SUV into a 2-row capable all-terrain vehicle. And that's the proof that we could do it. So anyway, with that little introduction, let me get started. So I'm going to start with some fun facts about GMC, the brand, okay? With the insatiable appetite in the marketplace for trucks, pickups, SUVs, and crossovers, we are closing in on 6 years of consecutive sales growth year over year. We have the highest average transaction price of a non-luxury brand in the US. We are closing in also on the highest loyalty rates in a decade to the incredible work that our customer care folks and the customer relationship management do, as well as the incredible work that is done at our dealership, both in the sales showroom as well as the service bay. So we are at the highest loyalty rates in a decade. And the incredible success story of Denali, the sub-brand. We sell 25% of all of GMC sales are Denalis, and I'll show you some proof as to why that is so important for GMC. And by the way, did you know that GMC sells 700,000 units in 12 different countries? Okay? So those are the fun facts. Now let's talk a little bit about business metrics. So we have been able to nurture this Denali brand, which is incredibly strong for us. And quarter over quarter, we have been spending a lot of media dollars and nurturing this brand with the consistency of design, contenting, packaging, and pricing across all vehicle lines. And we have been able to take the brand up to a quarter of our sales. And why is that important? Denali actually performs very much like a luxury brand. if you look at the average transaction price of Denali's, we are actually higher than Cadillac, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, and Volvo in terms of our average transaction price. Okay, that says something about the strength of this brand. The average transaction price of all GMCs is actually higher than the Lexus. And it is the highest amongst all non-luxury brands. Okay, let me switch gears and start talking about the brand new Acadia. So the 2017 Acadia, this year and the next year is going to be the biggest year for Acadia. We are using a 360-degree approach to our media investment where we are using traditional media, so TV, advertising, print, out-of-home, billboards, et cetera, but we're also complementing that with cutting-edge and innovative digital assets. We are using Facebook, Instagram, a lot of these new digital platforms to cut through the clutter of all the media that's happening out there to drive our message to the SUV intenders. Okay, let me talk a little bit about the Acadia positioning, but before I talk about the Acadia specifically, let me talk about the GMC brand. Our brand positioning of professional-grade premium trucks, SUVs, and crossovers has been consistent for over 15 years. We're probably one of the very few brands that have maintained our brand positioning for 15 plus years. Now, what does that mean in terms of professional-grade trucks, SUVs, and crossovers? It means bold design, inspired by 100-plus years of truck heritage. It also means superior capability in terms of engineering, and you're going to hear Paul talk about all of the things that we do in terms of GMC engineering, and precisely crafted. So what that means is that these are precisely crafted premium trucks, SUVs, and crossovers. So when you sit in the vehicle and you touch the steering wheel, it is real aluminum. Okay, we have real aluminum on our wheels. We use authentic materials. We have real wood on our Denali trims. So that's what we mean by professional-grade trucks, SUVs, and crossovers. Now, in terms of customer insight, we spend significant time talking to our customers in focus group events, as well as we did garage visits. In other words, we actually go into customers' homes and talk to them about how the Acadia fits their life. We talk extensively with customers as to how they use these mid-crossovers. We actually went into competitor vehicle households and talked to them about how they're using Jeep Grand Cherokee or a Ford Explorer or things like that. And one of the things that we found, a key customer insight, was that these people are incredibly busy. Every facet of their life is planned, scheduled, and ready to go, and they want a vehicle that fits their lifestyle. So what we came up with is, with everything we do, I am confident my vehicle is always appropriate, stylish, and functional. And with that message, we wrap that around into a key message being versatility wrapped in refinement. Okay? So with that, I'm going to play two 30-second commercials. The first one is for the US market, and the next one I'm going to talk about in a minute.
There are conductors, and then there are maestros. He leads with confidence, exactness, inspiration. At GMC, we're in tune with that degree of precision. It's that kind of performance that deserves a standing ovation. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the GMC Acadia. The next generation SUV has arrived.
Okay, the next spot is again a 30-second spot, and it is an English language spot for the United Arab Emirates. It is geared towards the large expat population in Dubai. I could have brought in some Arabic commercials, but we thought this would be more appropriate for this audience, so here it goes. And again, this commercial, you can see that it ties into family and tradition and nostalgia about desert adventures, which is a big thing in the Middle East.
The GMC legacy lives on. The all-new 2017 Acadia.
Okay, I'm going to switch gears again on you and talk about the brand new Acadia. So the story is, a press writer wrote, "Honey, you shrunk my Acadia," right? So why did we change the footprint of the brand new Acadia? So there is a lot of reason, a lot of debate that went into this decision. So since 1990, interest in 6+ passenger vehicles has actually steadily declined in the North American market. And it really coincides with a demographic shift that we are seeing over the last 25 years. And that is the number of children in the household is actually going down. So anybody wants to guess what is the number of children in the household that buys brand new vehicles? 2? Did I hear? Okay. Anybody wants to go down? Actually, the number for 2015 is the latest census data we have. It's 0.5. Okay? So that's kind of a demographic trend that's happening in the North American market. The other thing is SUV-C. This is the compact SUV, so things like the GMC Terrain, Chevy Equinox, Ford Escape. Now, those vehicles, pretty much, they are limited to 5 or less number of passengers, so 2-row. But the SUV-D, which is the mid-SUV segment, that's a different beast. It's kind of a mixed bag. It's got 2 rows, and it has got 3 rows. Some of the big volume players, like the Jeep Grand Cherokee and the Ford Edge, they're 2-row vehicles, but they do massive volume in the mid-SUV segment. And then there are the 3 rows. Now, 70% of the sales in this mid-SUV segment are in the 3-row version. For a while, in the 1995 to 2000 timeframe, 2000 timeframe, there used to be optional 3rd-row vehicles in this segment. That's pretty much gone. Everybody is doing 3-row vehicles or 2-row vehicles, no optional 3rd row. And we actually did a fun thing at a clinic. We asked people, how much would you pay to take the 3rd row out? And people said no to $1,000 less, $2,000 less, $3,000, $5,000 less. They would still not go for a 2-row or a 3rd row option to lead. So pretty interesting fact. And they really want this as just in case. Okay, we have also found that less than 10% of these 3-row buyers have the 3rd row seat up on a consistent basis. Okay, they just want it just in case. And the shift to 3-row mid-SUVs has not come at the expense of 2-row vehicles. It has actually come at the expense of mid-vans. Mid-vans has been a shrinking segment for the last few years. Okay. So what we anticipate going into the future is that the mid-SUV segment will remain one of the largest segments in the industry. We anticipate over the next few years that we're going to hold steady with about 1.6 million units. That's about 9% of the overall market. So pretty steady segment here, and it does good business for us. Okay, so if you look at the continuum of SUVs, going from small SUV to the circle on the very left bottom, to the large SUVs at the very top right bubble. So the small SUVs are vehicles like the Chevy Trax, Buick Encore, the Jeep Renegade. And the large SUVs are, of course, the Suburban Yukon, Yukon XL, those vehicles. Now, and then the compact, by the way, the small SUV segment, that is, by the way, the fastest growing segment in the industry right now. The compact SUV segment, that's the Chevy Equinox, GMC Terrain. That is the largest segment in the industry, over 3 million units. We can't make those cars fast enough and get it to dealers, and that's a fact. So now, if you look at the mid SUV segment, there's really two different bubbles here. And one to the right is what used to be the old Acadia and the Traverse and Enclave. They are on the large mid segment. Our charge for the next gen Acadia is to go into the heart of the market, which is the red rectangle over here. And the reason is the Highlander, Pathfinder, Grand Cherokee, they do significantly higher volume than us. So we actually have a great opportunity to increase our sales volume with the new Acadia. So if you look at average transaction price and volume curve in the mid SUV segment, we, with the current Acadia, did extremely well with the right side of the curve, the right third of the curve, where with the incredible sales of our Denalis, we actually over-indexed. We sold 10% of our Acadia sales were in the higher than 40,000. We, of course, don't want to give that up. And with the Denali, we feel very strongly that we would still be able to do the sales volume there. But the larger part of the segment is in the mid span, which is the $30,000 to $40,000 range. And the Highlander, Grand Cherokee, Explorer, they do about 13% of that segment, whereas the Acadia, we did less than 6% of the segment. So the charge for us is to grow our sales volume in that mid segment, okay? So that's from a brand perspective, the all-new GMC Acadia.